What is up? Elden Ring video here, Shadow of the Erdtree. So I'm going to show you what you can get from each of the 10 Remembrance bosses. So if you have not beat all of them yet, or you don't want any spoilers, click off now, because I will be going through some of these. Now I am on the Divine Beast or the Dancing Lion. Everybody's probably seen that. If not, I mean, you shouldn't be clicking on Elden Ring videos. Anyway, I'll show you what you get with each of these things. I believe altogether there are 21 items because one of the items has three, or one of the remembrances has 3 items, and then the rest of them have 2. So FYI, if you don't want to see the end boss or be spoiled, if you haven't been spoiled yet, whatever, you can watch until I get to the end. I'll give you a few seconds to click off. But anyway, up first we have the Dancing Lion, or the Enraged Divine Beast is the first item. This is a talisman item that raises the potency of storms. So if you have some sort of storm, incantation or spell, it will boost that. And then you have the Ash of War, the Divine Beast Frost Stomp. This is definitely a recommended one. If you remember Hoarfrost Stomp before they nerfed it, this is basically, or essentially, just that, like before the nerf. It is really good. If you like code spells, you want to apply frost to an enemy, definitely recommend this item right here. And you can let me see what you can apply this to. Usable on all melee armaments. So just a FYI there if you're wondering what it goes on. Next up right here, we have Rolana's items, Remembrance of the Twin Moon Knight. And you have Rolana's Twin Blades. I like these weapons. You can dual wield them. You got one weapon in one hand, one on the other. It's like moon and fire stance. Really good. The fire is definitely a lot stronger than the moon art on it, or like the magic damage that it does. But the fire just feels like it does more, especially like the area, like the AoE and stuff seems a lot bigger. And then you have Rolana's Twin Moons. Now, these ones right here, you have to be kind of close for it to impact. It is more like physical damage, and you do have to have 72 int with it. So just a FYI right there. If I were to pick one, I would go with the Twin Blades. I like them. I see some people say they don't like them, but again, everything is going to depend on your play style. I mean, maybe you just want to sell the remembrance, for the runes and not even worry about the items. But, I definitely would recommend picking up, all of them if you can. You have like the walking mausoleums, a couple places in the DLC to duplicate remembrances, or, you start a new game once you're done, and then, don't waste the remembrance. You'll keep it, and then you can dupe it like on your next playthrough if you want to go to like the next new game or whatever. Next up right here, we got the Remembrance of Putrescence, and we have the Cleaver. And this right here is a great axe, slashing, and it does frost build up. Again, I'm someone that likes to use like code spells and frost damage and stuff like that. That's just how I play, so I do recommend this one. And then you have a sorcery spell right here, launches a whirl of putrescent jets. It's decent, nothing too spectacular. It does use 2 slots though. I wouldn't recommend it over other items, but I guess if you have your build centered around something like this, you definitely might want to consider it. Next up, we have the Remembrance of the Wild Boar Rider. So this one right here, you're going to have the Sword Lance. It is a heavy thrusting sword, and it has this spinning gravity thrust. I do like the weapon art on this particular weapon right here. And then you're going to have the Blades of Stone. This one right here is another gravity spell. So if you're someone, I've tried playing through the game using nothing but gravity magic. It is possible to do. I say try because, I'll usually switch for like a boss that I have trouble with, that, I'm like, oh man, this, gets annoying after I die 20 times, and then I'll just go switch some spells or whatever. But I have more or less like beaten the game using just gravity magic. Both of these are very good, just depending on whether you want to use like, sorceries or gravity spells, whatnot. Obviously if you're just using like a sword lance or like a heavy thrusting sword, you don't really have to use magic. We'll use FP because of the weapon art, but other than that, you don't need a finger seal or a staff or anything. Next up, Remembrance of the Shadow Sunflower. This is going to be the Shadow Tree avatar, I believe. And you have the Shadow Sunflower Blossom. This is a colossal weapon. This is a really good weapon. It's really strong too. You level it up, you can stagger everything, including the end boss, with this item right here and get those crit hits on it. Like, it's really good. Highly recommended. Honestly, like, so far, I'd probably get this before I got anything, to be honest. But of course, it's going to go or depend on your play type, what type of build you have, whatnot. Next up, you have an incantation here. This is the Land of Shadow. Fires a hail of golden projectiles toward foes. So if you have an enemy that's weak to holy damage, this would be a nice incantation for you to consider. Now, the next two are two of my favorite bosses in the game. They're up there, and this is going to be the Remembrance of the Saint of the Bud. That's going to be Romina, however you say your name. But you have the Pole Blade of Bud. This is a really good weapon because the weapon art from it you can use from range, so you don't have to be right up on the enemy to attack with the weapon art, because it's like one of those ones where you're like flying up in the air. Think of like Melania's attack or something like that, where you like lift up off your feet and travel quite a good distance with it, and it's like circling around. Really good. Just take my word for it. And then you have the Rotten Butterflies. This isn't the best incantation right here, but like, say you go into like a village or a camp or something like that, and you got a lot of like enemy mobs, where it's like 10, 15, whatever, 9, 5, whatever, or some little village where, like the Bony Village and stuff, you got all those enemies. You can use this, and it does a lot of damage if you, are scaled to it. You need 33 faith. But if you have time to get this particular incantation off, it does do a lot of damage to like the weaker enemies in the game, like the non-boss enemies, and it is really good. And you can use it on the bosses too. It's just a matter of having the time to get the particular incantation off. And then next up is my favorite boss in the game. Overall, just like the lore, the design, everything about him I like. He's my favorite. I know a lot of people like Bale, who is not a Remembrance boss, but yeah, he's, everybody's like favorite boss. But I like both Ramana and the next one. And this is going to be the Lord of the Frenzied Flame, Mitra, how you say his name, or her name, his name, whatever. But he has a great sword of damnation. It's a great sword. It does like a standard pierce, has the golden crux. I've like used this a couple times. I don't really use like the big bonk weapons and stuff like that. Like I said, the sunflower is good. I tried that just because it's like a weird weapon. So I had to try that out. But then right here you have an incantation, summon the Lord of Frenzied Flame's head, and then spew the frenzied flame everywhere. You got to have 41 faith for it, and this one does use 2 slots. Really good if you have like a madness build or something like that. This does do good damage. It's Mydra's Flame of Frenzy. Highly recommend it. And like I said, this is my favorite boss in the game, so I do have both of these items because I'm on like new game, I don't know, 50 or something probably, to be honest. But anyway, that's why my rune level is like 643, because I'll just keep like leveling up, and I'm gonna eventually just max this particular character out, 713 or whatever it is. Anyway, next up we have the Remembrance of Mother of Fingers. So this one right here, you have one of the better staffs in the game. Now, the damage and scaling on it isn't the greatest, but the cool thing about this particular staff is you can cast, spells and incantations with just the one staff. You don't have to have 2 separate items or like, switch weapons and stuff in the middle of combat. So it is very useful. Of course, you could always keep, say you're like me, I use Thorn Sorcery, so I have like the other staff of, Staff of the Guilty, I think, that does like the thorn damage. Anyway, or Princess Staff of Death. I can't remember. It's one of those two. But anyway, I'd have that in my offhand and then have this in my other hand, so I can cast the spells. And then if I need to switch to an incantation, I can do that. And I'm not having to switch from a spell to an incantation and then like switch like weapons or whatever. So I do like this one a lot. And then you have the Gaze and Finger. This is another colossal weapon. I haven't really used this, to be honest, so I have no opinion on it one way or another. I don't really play, like I said, with the big bonk weapons. I did like the Sunflower. I'm not really, I'm more of like the mage type, and I like the slashing swords, the Moonveil, katana, stuff like that. That's more of my preference for weapons, for swords, other than the Dark Moon Greatsword, of course, because, like I said, I play as a mage mainly, and I like cold spells, That's one of the better weapons, or was one of the better weapons in the game. And then right here we have the Remembrance of the Impaler. Of course, this is going to be Mesmer. You have his spear right here, Spear of the Impaler. Decent weapon, recommended. It scales with dex, a little bit of faith and some strength. This is a really good weapon. It's a piercing weapon, so that's really popular for like the shield tank builds and stuff. So this would be something you may want to consider right here. And you can look at it. His unique skill is Mesmer's Assault right here. So, a fierce succession of attacks using a flame-coated spear tip. So if you need fire damage and you want to use a spear, this is the weapon for you. It is good, highly recommended. And then you have Mesmer's Orb, shapes Mesmer's flame into a giant orb that soars at foes. This one's good, a little bit slower. Incantation, again, uses 2 slots. So I'm not really big on all the spells and incantations that use 2 slots. Every now and then there's like one that I definitely will have to use, and it may use like 2 or even 3. And, I have to use it, but I'm not that big of a fan of them. So that's the 9 remembrances. The last one is the end boss. So if you don't want to be spoiled, now would be the time to click off. I'll sit here and politic for a second, give you a chance to click away just in case you haven't seen the end boss and you don't want to be spoiled. Anyway, 3, 2, I gave you a warning. 1, let's go. And this one is going to be the Remembrance of a God and a Lord. So this has 3 items. Those of you that know, you fight 2 players, or 2 enemies. It's basically Radahn's like soul, Mohg's body, kind of, and Miquella. So you do have 3 items here. You're going to have the Great Sword of Radahn, the Lord. This would be the first phase. And then you have the Great Sword of Radahn, and this is going to be the light version of the weapon. The only difference between the 2, other than like the weapon arts, is to cast a weapon art, the Lord uses 20 FP, and the light uses 32. I'm not sure if that goes up when you level it up. It may, 'cause it does more damage. But anyway, last but not least, Light of Miquella. Like, this is an incantation that takes 72 faith, 48 FP, and it does take 2 slots. This is one of those spells that uses like more than 1 slot that I recommend. It is a beast. Like, it's really good. Annihilate foes with a pillar of light. No wonder, as one god and one king consort is all the world needs. This right here is definitely one of the better incantations in the game. If you are, equipped for it, you scale for it, whatnot. It does have, it scales with faith. No intelligence required, no arcane. Just got to have that faith. I have 99 faith right now, and just take my word for it. It is really good. You could use it, especially if you take this into the vanilla game, like the original Elden Ring before the DLC. Try this on some of the bosses that are weak to like the holy damage or whatnot. Like, it's really good. Just take my word for it. Definitely one that I would recommend. But if you have any questions or comments about any of these remembrance items, or basically anything like mage related spells, sorceries, whatnot, you can leave that down below. But hopefully you found this helpful. Like I said, I was just showing it off because I've played through the game several times now. I want to say I've beat it like 8 times maybe, with different builds and stuff. Sadly, I still haven't beat it on the PlayStation, all on PC, because I have a ton of characters, because that is where I spend most of my time playing. And I've got like 3,000 hours with 2,600 of them coming on PC versus the rest of it on the PlayStation. With that said, I'm out. Hope everyone has a great day. Peace.